Good afternoon, everyone. Namaste and warm welcome to the last session of the second day of the 7th International Dignified Menstruation Day Learning Conference. I'm very pleased to see that so many people are still here and still attentive. I'm very grateful for that as well. I'm very honored to be facilitating this session, to be moderating today's panel discussion on menstrual management. As you could have probably gathered from the introduction that was just made, unlike practically all of you here in this room, I have not been working on dignified menstruations for decades. And in fact, my engagement in dignified menstruation dates back just a couple of years ago when our Honorable Radha Paudel asked me to moderate a session, launch of her book, of the translation of her book into English language. At that time, I was operations manager of the World Bank in Nepal. And ever since then, I have been fascinated by the topic. That is probably one of the topics that I've learned most about. And I've been sharing with my table and my panel as well my personal experiences and how I realized that in my country, while we never talk about dignified menstruation, we do have the issue of taboo and there is silence around it. So I'm saying that just to say that I'm very passionate about the topic and I'm very honored to be here and to be contributing to this very important work. And thank you again, Banerjee, for staying in contact. It wasn't very difficult to convince me to come. I really wanted to be back. The session today will build on the wealth of insights shared yesterday and today. And it also builds on the framework of indicators developed by the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation. I'll talk about this a little bit later on to put the questions in context. And also, Banerjee referred to that yesterday in one of her interventions. Before we do that and before we start into the discussion, I'm very pleased to introduce our distinguished panelists, each one bringing unique experience and perspective from their work in menstrual health, gender advocacy, law, and research. And this particular panel is very interesting because we have people from 4 different countries and 4 different backgrounds. So with that, the first panelist is Benedicta ALOAKINNOU. Here is Benedicta. Benedicta, please welcome on the stage. Benedicta is from Benin, and she is a criminal law expert and feminist activist. And she is president of Fondation des Jeunes Amazones pour le Développement. And she is also the founder of Benin's first feminist civic tech platform. Her work bridges grassroots activism, policy advocacy, and feminist social innovation, focusing on menstrual dignity, gender-based violence, and climate justice. Next, welcome, Benedicta. Next comes Jeydah Cawed from the Philippines. And Jeydah is an independent researcher collaborating with international research institutes and NGOs to inform public health and policy interventions. Her research in anthropology explores menstrual health in urban peripheries and precarious living conditions among indigenous communities. We look forward to your interventions, Jeydah. The next guest and panelist in this session is Rohini Banerjee from India. And Rohini is a communications professional with nearly a decade of experience in nonprofits and social impact publications that focus on gender equity and sexual and reproductive health. Rohini currently manages digital communications at the Center for Catalyzing Change and is passionate about exploring the intersections of gender and digital media. Welcome, Rohini. And last but not least, and the order is alphabetical, is our panelist from Nepal, and that is Sajani Limbu. And Sajani is a behavior change communication specialist at WaterAid Nepal. She has a background in nursing and public health. Through inclusive, people-centered communication strategies in HIV, adolescent sexual and reproductive health, maternal and child health, and WASH, she empowers communities and strengthens systems by building local capacity, improving structures, and creating pathways for lasting change. So these are the 4 panelists, and I will join them shortly at the stage. I would like, before then, to just do a short housekeeping note. We will proceed through 3 rounds of guided discussion, each focusing on key aspects of dignified menstrual management. And we will have one and the same question for all panelists, so there will be 3 questions. And they will share their experiences from their country and from their different backgrounds. Time permitting, we will also do a short question and answers at the end. We haven't really done a real dry run, so I don't know how we'll fit with the time, but we'll do our best to do that. And before I sit down there, I would like to put the framework that we are using for this panel. And I would like to start the first round by providing a brief contextual background to frame that conversation. When we talk about menstrual management, the first thing that comes to mind is a menstrual product. The Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation has developed the 3P model for menstrual product to align with the Dignified Menstruation framework. And we are, in this session, trying to explore that alignment with the 3P model. You may recall that Banerjee referred to the 3Ps, and they are also explained in the poster on the side of the room, and now that is also on the screen. The 3Ps stand for person, planet, and pocket. The first P, person, represent the menstruators in all their diversity, and I will leave it to the panelists to discuss aspects of that. The second P, the planet, refers to products that are environmentally friendly, free from plastic and chemicals, and other aspects as well. The third P, pocket, signifies affordable, locally produced menstrual product with appropriate quality and standards. So with this background, my question to the panelists, to all of the panelists, is as follows. What are the menstrual products that are available in your country context? And given the background of the 3Ps, do the menstrual products available in your community adhere to this framework? And if you could explain it with some examples. The order we have for that session is Sajani, Rohini, Benedicta, and Jeydah. And I'll sit over there and listen. Thank you.
So shall I start? Okay. So Nepal's menstrual product market is definitely evolving with emergence of biodegradable and sustainable options. So from yesterday, we have been hearing a lot about the most commonly used menstrual products being the disposable pads. So we do have it here also, and it's also one of the most commonly used menstrual products here in Nepal. We also have another disposable product, which is tampon. However, it is not as popular as the disposable pads. It has its own cultural issues. Regarding reusable products, we have cloth pads, both stitch and unstitch. We have menstrual cups, and we also have the recently introduced menstrual underwears. But we do have to remember that in remote and rural areas, people, menstruators, still resort to cloth and old rag pieces to manage their menstruation, which I think it's common in most of the low middle income countries as well. So we have been seeing a shift towards more environmental friendly and more sustainable options, with the increasing in the local manufacturers and social enterprises producing biodegradable pads like the one that was on the display. So we have pads made from banana fibers. So a lot of those pads are available in the market. Also, we have to know that the consumer interest is growing not just in affordability and convenience, but also in terms of environmentally friendly options, posing less environmental risks. So menstrual cups, which has been in the market for more than a decade, is slowly gaining traction now. Menstrual underwear, like I mentioned, has been introduced in the Nepal market for the past few years. But we have to also consider that though there is a wide range of menstrual products in Nepal, we have to be mindful that access to all of these menstrual products is limited, especially in remote and rural areas. So in regards to the 3 Ps, so as Lada mentioned, so the 3 Ps of menstrual product is actually to ensure that the menstrual products are safe, dignified for the menstruators, and it's environmental friendly and affordable. So given that we have so many products here in Nepal, we have to know that in terms of persons, so regarding safety, to ensure that it's safe for the menstruators. There is a technical specification for disposable pads developed by the Nepal Bureau of Standards and Metrology. These standards are adopted or followed by manufacturers, by importers for disposable pads. Even the free pad distribution scheme here in Nepal, it also follows this technical specification. Whether there's compliance, whether there's the monitoring mechanism, it's up for debate, but there is standards for disposable pads. Whereas for other menstrual products, there are no standards currently, and Nepal is not part of the ISO TC 338, which is actually an ISO committee for menstrual products. So that's for the safety. And regarding informed choice. So when we talk about informed choice, we do have to understand about the adequate information. So when we talk about menstrual products, often information are there regarding product use, the pros and cons of the products. However, we don't talk about the safe use of the products. The products itself are not unsafe. However, if there is any negligence, if there's any unhygienic practices, that leads to health risks, that leads to environmental risks, and that is often overlooked. So that we have to understand regarding informed choice that these are some of the parts that have not been addressed. Okay. Another part is that planet, regarding environmental risks, environmental friendliness. So we've mentioned that there's a dominant use of disposable pads, and with it comes the menstrual waste management, which is a critical issue and often an overlooked one. So this menstrual waste disposal is there's a lot of factors that goes into the disposable practice. We have been talking about it since yesterday. So there's the cultural and social norms that guards the disposal practices, there are infrastructural gaps, there are no effective waste management systems in the municipalities, and also there is very less clarity of policies and mechanisms between different sectors, so who's responsible for managing waste management. So a lot of this contributes to safe disposal of disposable pads. So let's switch on to reusable pads because they are sustainable, they are environmental friendly, but again, when we are using reusable pads, we have to consider that they require availability of water, they require soap, they require proper area for drying. And this all are again influenced by the social and cultural stigma surrounding menstruation. And this inconvenience, these limitations influences the uptake of reusable products here in Nepal. So that's what I want to highlight. And also, lastly, about the price and the affordability. So I would like to reference yesterday's last session where Godfrey mentioned, stated the relation between menstrual poverty and product use, especially on disposable pads. So why is it that people are still opting for buying disposable pads? So we have to understand that it's not just the economy, but also other social, cultural, and practical issues. So disposable pads upfront, they are cheaper. Reusable products, they, in the long run, initially the cost may be high, but in the long run, they are cost effective. So despite of that, we have to understand that households or menstruators, they have very limited daily cash flows. So they usually buy what they can to manage their menstruation at that time. They don't think about, oh, it's going to save me money in the long run. So because of that, we have to understand that when we are providing information, we have to ensure that we are spreading awareness on cost analysis. Informations on product, they don't include this kind of informations. So regarding sustainability, regarding environmental friendly, we often overlook that. So that's how I would like to explain the 3 Ps here in Nepal. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I will be talking about the Indian context. And overall, there has been a positive shift. The most recent National Family Health Survey in India found that there's been almost like a 20% increase in the use of hygienic methods of menstrual management between 2017 and 2021. And what are these hygienic methods according to the survey, and also in terms of the availability of the methods? These include, similar to the Nepal context that Sajani mentioned, both disposable and reusable pads, tampons, and period cups, menstrual cups, and menstrual underwear is also something that are emerging trends and are becoming more and more mainstream. But in terms of the dignified menstruation framework and the 3 Ps, when it comes to person, the menstrual taboos still impact the agency of the menstruator in making informed choices about what products to use, because taboos lead to misinformation, taboos lead to lack of access as well. Taboos lead to harming how the menstruator participates in public life. And as a result, very often they don't either receive the correct information and have the access also to make informed choices. But again, a lot of it is determined by, cultural factors, wealth factors. In terms of when we come to planet, like I was mentioning, there are there's been a steady uptick in the prevalence of menstrual cups, reusable pads, like more more sustainable pads, as well as period underwear, and a lot of local brands coming up too, as Sajani mentioned, for Nepal. But still, this is largely within urban spaces, largely within a certain class bracket. The access to capital means more access to more planet-friendly period products, menstrual products. So that is still one gap. And in terms of pocket too, the government has, in India too, a lot of free pad distribution or subsidized pad schemes, which are meant for communities which require the most access. But the last mile reach of these policies, these free products, is still something that requires to be worked on, which is, the work is happening though. And I would also say that conversations also around menstruation, menstrual health are slowly increasing within schools and within communities. Even in government schemes like School Health and Wellness Program and India's National Adolescent Health Scheme, which is called 𝐼𝐧𝐬𝐿. There are, both of these schemes actually are about imparting life skills educations to young people. And a part of this is also conversations around menstruation. So it is happening even if taboos still persist and still need to be busted and need to be worked upon. And lastly, I would also like to say that there are some local community level interventions that are coming up to make products both pocket friendly and planet friendly. For example, there are women's self-help groups at the community level, at the rural level, who sometimes localize the production of cotton reusable pads. And especially this is something we saw during the pandemic as well, when during lockdown there was a lot of gap of access to period products, as menstrual products. Then women in communities, in villages, through the self-help groups, began producing pads and selling them at a subsidized rate, or sometimes even for free in their communities. So those models also exist. And so on the whole, to sum up basically everything that I was saying, is that while there is a shift happening, there is more and more adoption and conversation happening, shifting norms takes a long time. And there is still a need to, challenge taboos, to have open conversations, to involve entire ecosystems into conversations, so that the menstruator has the agency, has the information, has the access to choose the menstrual product that suits them the most.
I should have mentioned that you need to have your translation equipment. Benedicta comes next, speaking in French. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour à toutes, bonjour à tous. Alors, pour le Bénin, je suis déjà très ravie de voir qu'il y a beaucoup d'avancées ici. Et contrairement à notre contexte, on est encore d'abord à une étape où le mot dignité n'est pas encore clairement dans nos politiques, n'est pas encore clairement dans tout ce qui concerne les droits des personnes menstruées. Et donc, en termes de produits, on a bien sûr des produits menstruels qui existent, mais par rapport au cadre des 3P, c'est un autre défi. Donc, je vais d'abord mentionner les produits qu'on a au Bénin. Au Bénin, plusieurs produits menstruels peuvent coexister. Un peu comme au Népal, on a naturellement des serviettes menstruelles, on a ces produits-là qui peuvent être réutilisables ou importés. En fonction de la zone, en fonction du contexte, en fonction de la réalité de la personne menstruée qui veut utiliser ce produit-là, c'est soit la serviette, soit les couches menstruelles. Les culottes menstruelles existent, mais c'est beaucoup plus accessible pour des femmes ou des personnes ou des filles qui ont un niveau économique un peu plus élevé. Donc, récemment, on a fait une enquête avec 100 personnes, un échantillon de 100 dans le nord du Bénin, et on s'est rendu compte que le produit menstruel qui était le plus utilisé, c'est effectivement les couches menstruelles. Et ensuite, en deuxième position vient tout ce qui est coupe menstruelle. Et en toute dernière position, les culottes menstruelles et les tampons. Et il faut noter aussi que dans ces contextes-là, il y a des morceaux de tissu qui sont encore utilisés par beaucoup de personnes menstruées. Et en dernier ressort, il y a des chiffons qui ne sont ni hygiéniques, ni adaptés, ni dignes, mais qui sont accessibles en fonction de la zone où on se trouve, en fonction des défis. Et notez aussi que dans l'environnement, on a au moins 15% de filles surtout qui abandonnent les cours, qui abandonnent les scolarités juste parce qu'elles n'ont pas accès à des produits menstruels. Donc les produits existent, mais ça dépend vraiment du contexte pour pouvoir y avoir accès. Et comme je disais tout à l'heure, quand on va évaluer plus loin au niveau du cadre des 3 P, c'est encore un réel défi. J'ai déjà parlé du premier P par rapport aux produits. Les produits existent, mais en fonction des politiques qui ne sont pas claires sur le accès, en fonction du coût qui est très élevé, on n'a pas forcément accès à ces produits-là. Et la plupart du temps, c'est les produits les moins conseillés, les moins recommandés qui sont utilisés, qui sont les plus utilisés parce que c'est les plus accessibles. Et justement, ça ramène en fait à la question de la planète. Si je vous dis déjà qu'on n'a pas vraiment un cadre clair qui intègre la question de la dignité, donc vous savez déjà qu'il n'y a pas vraiment une politique réelle qui encadre tout ce qui est gestion des produits menstruels, tout ce qui est tout ce qui peut encadrer en fait l'utilisation, l'après-utilisation. Déjà que là, c'est un défi. Déjà que dans la loi, on est encore à l'étape de hygiène, de donner des conseils à des filles pour passer la période menstruelle, pour ne pas tomber malade, pour ne pas sentir mauvais. Donc, on en est encore là. Du coup, le défi, là, tout de suite, pour notre État surtout, ce n'est pas forcément de faire en sorte qu'il y ait un cadre bienveillant, un cadre de bien-être pour la gestion des produits menstruels ou pour tout ce qui est planète. Et pour le dernier point sur la qualité, je dirais que c'est pas forcément donné de faire un choix de produit menstruel parce qu'on veut la qualité, mais c'est plus une contrainte. Je trouve le premier produit que j'ai assez parce que c'est ce que je trouve en fait. Donc, il n'y a pas vraiment un suivi de tout ce qui est qualité. Actuellement, il faut le noter quand même, un grand travail qui est fait par les organisations féministes pour justement défiscaliser déjà les produits, pour aussi faire un suivi de tout ce qui est qualité des produits qui sont sur le marché, parce que malheureusement aujourd'hui c'est devenu un commerce de faire en sorte qu'il y ait des produits menstruels. Donc c'est devenu plus un commerce qu'une question de bien-être. Donc il y a plusieurs entreprises aujourd'hui qui se lèvent et qui s'engagent dans le commerce de produits menstruels, pas pour voir est-ce que ces produits sont adaptés, est-ce que c'est bon pour la santé des personnes qui vont l'utiliser, mais juste parce qu'on trouve que c'est un champ nouveau, c'est un champ économique qui engendre beaucoup d'argent. Donc oui, il faut le faire. Donc il y a ce travail aujourd'hui pour que l'État puisse vraiment réglementer la qualité des produits qu'on a sur le marché pour les personnes menstruées. Ça reste encore un défi.
Hello. So in the Philippines, kind of similar with those examples from India and Nepal, there is a prevalence and preference to use disposable pads because they are the most accessible. And the emerging products mentioned, such as the tampons, period underwear, menstrual cups, or even the discs, are more available on online platforms. but are just starting to be available in drugstores. Specifically, in my field site, research site, they have cloth pads that they use using scrap cloth, as mentioned earlier. The term we use is pasador, so we use it to refer to both the scrap cloth pads and also the new trendy reusable pads that we have currently. So the scrap cloth is mostly used by older generations who come from rural communities and have adopted it when they moved to the city. But some youth are also interested in using them. Another accessible product for women in urban poor communities is baby diapers, of course, because of their babies. And they try to modify this to use as their version of their heavy flow pads, because we know that this can be more expensive, and even the adult diapers that can be useful for heavy flow periods can be also very expensive. So to assess the products that I've mentioned, I would also like to recognize that menstruators do not just use one product. A cross-cutting theme actually with the four of us is that women alternate different menstrual products depending on where they are, how heavy their flow is, or their level of comfort at the moment. So even though disposable pads are readily available, we can buy it anywhere in neighborhood stores at retail price. We can also buy it per piece. Along with soap, we can buy small sizes or feminine wash in sachets because of these stores. However, we know that the costs can lump eventually because we buy per piece instead of per bulk. And that doesn't help the planet and also our health. So surprisingly, we have found that menstruators sense something in the pads. For some reason, they say that it discourages their flow. So they actually prefer free bleeding or not using any product at all and just using their underwear. And it's not fully because of financial incapacity, but really a preference to have a smoother flow. However, both reusable pads and the free bleeding practice can be also resource intensive in terms of using water, soap, and even the time and space to do laundry, even dry everything. And unfortunately, there's also a lack of raw materials available to be used in both reusable pads and cloth pads. So I'm also interested in the banana fiber pads that Sajani has mentioned.
Thank you all very much for sharing your insights and examples, especially with regard to the alignment with the 3P framework. I will not try to summarize this. This was a very rich information on that. And in the interest of time, I suggest we move on to the second round, which we should probably try to do a little bit more concisely. So moving to the second round, I would like to briefly set the context by linking the WASH facilities with the Dignified Menstruation framework of the 4 S's this time. Again, you will probably see it on the screen, and it is certainly up there on one of those posters. So similar to the menstrual product, the Global South Coalition for Dignified Menstruation has developed practical tools in order to align the 4S of the WASH program with the Dignified Menstruation framework. These are practical indicators, and anyone can check them and use them. So the 4 S's, which I expected on the screen, but that's okay, they stand for safety, security, safe, and stigma. And you will hear those words again in the intervention of the panelists. The first S is the safety, and it refers to accessible to all, proper facilities of soap and water, waste management, washing and drying menstrual products, and spacious areas. The second S is security, and it refers to well-locked doors, windows, proper lights, well ventilated, appropriate with privacy and confidentiality. The third S, safe, is a call to save the planet, to save people, and to save products. In a way, it also refers to the 3 Ps in the previous part of our conversation. The fourth S stands for stigma, and it is a call to free the products from all forms of menstrual discrimination. And this is very much the essence of what the dignified menstruation movement is about. So in the context of the 4S framework, I would like the panelists to briefly explain your understanding of WASH facilities and share the interventions that you have been involved in within the WASH sector, to the extent that you have. Some of you have been more involved than others. And I would like you to reflect how these interventions align with the dignified menstruation framework. The order for this session that we have predetermined in the interest of time is Rohini starting, followed by Sajani, Jeydah, and Benedicta. Over to you, Rohini.
In terms of WASH and the 4 S's, it begins with obviously the presence of facilities. Both Jeydah and Sajani have pointed out, as well as Lada also just recently mentioned, is the fact that the presence of clean water, presence of space to dry your pads, definitely determines how likely a menstruator is to use a reusable cotton pad. And at the same time, privacy is an issue. So in a lot of rural contexts, how stigma functions is that there is a lot of silence, a lot of, it's also associated with shame. Any kind of mentions or visible signs of menstruation. And so as a result, how, just like washing a pad and drying it in an area where it might be visible to the larger community is also linked to stigma, and as a result discourages the use of such reusable pads. So while facilities are definitely determining the use of sustainable, reusable products. At the same time, awareness and behavior is the other key factors when it comes to WASH and the 4 S's. Because again, I would like to reiterate how social norms and taboos are very much embedded into, understandings of menstruation, especially for young people, for people who have just started menstruating or are about to start menstruating. There's data out there that says that 71% adolescents in the world over have not heard of menstruation until they got their first period. So there's a lot of silence and lack of information there. As a result, managing one's periods and like positive behavior around WASH, around safety and security of how menstrual hygiene and menstrual management practices should work are very much dependent on the kind of information and awareness one has. And there is a gap in this for sure. Huge divide in terms of rural and urban spaces. Wealth indicators also determine the knowledge and access to safe WASH conditions. In terms of interventions that I have been associated with or have worked on, I would like to talk about a first menstruator kit that my organization had developed, and I had been involved in the development process. It came from the same insight that I just talked about, how a lot of first-time menstruators or young people who are just about to start menstruating do not have a lot of awareness around menstruation or have a sense of fear around it. And so we wanted to specifically target this age group 10 to 13-year-olds. And we built a kit which not only had sustainable menstrual products like cotton pads, but we also designed the cotton pads in a way that they're colorful and then they don't look from a distance like they're a pad. So when they dry it in their communities, it'll be less likely to be, to be seen as a pad by a passerby. So, and then, of course, at the same time, we have a washing liquid to wash the pads. And also, we wanted to normalize the fact that period pain is a thing, menstrual cramps are a thing, and should not be dismissed. And so we also have a hot water bag in there for pain management. But most importantly, we have information around menstruation, age-appropriate, packaged in a little diary, which also has a period tracker. So that is busting myths, that is giving them information, and is very interactive. So I won't go on about this for too long. I also have left a few pamphlets outside about the kit, if anyone wants to know more about it. But basically, with this kit, we wanted to kind of reaffirm both the 4 S's and the 3 P's, where we are centering the menstruator, where we are shifting the narrative around menstruation from something scary to something natural and something beautiful, something positive, as well as offering resources and information and building habits around safe wash practices, busting the stigma, and also ensuring that the resources and practices that they develop around menstrual hygiene from a young age are also sustainable and eco-friendly. And also the fact that the pads here can be used for up to 1 to 2 years, is reused for up to 1 to 2 years, is also kind of cutting the cost of constantly buying disposable pads. So that way it's also pocket-friendly. So that is more or less how, through this wash intervention that I was involved in, you're able to bring in the dignified menstruation model as well as the 4 S's of wash and menstrual hygiene.
Thank you. So Moderator Nepal, alongside with the local communities and global allies, we work to ensure that everyone have access to clean water, decent sanitations, and good hygiene. So in doing that, we are committed to make sure that the wash services and facilities are essential, they are accessible, and they are sustainable to support safe water use, proper sanitations, and good hygiene practices in the communities. So in doing that, our interventions include piped water systems, construction and rehabilitations of toilets, along with hand washing facilities, and also behavior change packages in communities, schools, and healthcare facilities to ensure that these wash infrastructures are sustained and good hygiene practices are being adopted. And regarding the 4 S's, I'll keep it very short. Our interventions ensure that the infrastructure designs, they are consulted with local municipalities, they are consulted with schools, we do vulnerability and capacity assessments. We ensure that whatever infrastructures we develop in schools, they align with the WASH in Schools procedure indicators. We also do accessible audits to ensure that safety and privacy considerations are being made. We also ensure that the cubicles are spacious enough for changing pads and as well as for wheelchair movements to ensure that anyone, adolescents, girls with disabilities in a wheelchair is able to maneuver around the cubicles. And we also ensure that the doors can be opened from inside as well as from the outside. So if any one of you have noticed, especially in Nepal, previously the schools used to build toilets at the back because of the aesthetic as well as for the smell, that the smell doesn't ruin the reputation of the school. So in doing so, it hampers or it affected the safety and of the adolescent girls. So in the projects that we do, we ensure that the toilets are being made closer to the classrooms for accessibility and also for safety purposes. Another thing is that we support the local municipalities and schools in the sanitary pad procurement guidelines so that they can be implemented smoothly, that quality can be ensured, and that availability of pads are there throughout the academic year. Because a lot of times what happens is that because of poor inventory, because of poor procurement processes, the quality of pads are not up past standards. So we support the local municipalities and schools in that as well. We also make sure that the entrance of the girls' school, the girls' toilets, they have a physical barrier so that anyone from the outside, they can't see inside. So it prevents intrusion and also ensures privacy and security. Obviously, there is adequate ventilation and child-friendly locks for safety and privacy. Regarding menstrual waste disposal, we have pad collection bins as well as a direct chute in the cubicle that goes straight to the manual incinerator that we have supported. We also have clear messaging on the bins to how to dispose used sanitary pads properly. Also, if you have noticed, previously in old schools, they used to have toilets with urinals in the girls' toilets. And we removed that urinal construction. We remove it and replace it with cubicles because it goes against dignity, it goes against privacy. So that is what we do. And another, I would like to reference in yesterday's sessions where one of the top reasons for absenteeism was pain. So we have established MHH restrooms with furnished and we equipped with pain management amenities, for example, like hot water bag, a bed and a blanket to rest, warm kettle and glass for hot water. Yeah, and so that is how we have been supporting. So do Moderator Nepal wash facilities align with the 4 S's? I would say we do, yeah.
Hello. So in my case, I haven't been directly involved in any intervention, but I'm in the process of translating the research into a pamphlet or a booklet that can be read independently by menstruators. Also, recently, one of my colleagues actually asked if establishing a wash facility in the community that I work with would be helpful. So let me guide you to my thought process. So I work with an informal settlement built by the government. So they relocated residents from dump sites into these temporary houses where there's no running water, no established sewage system, and even no electricity. Currently, they access water by the bucket, 5 pesos per bucket or around 12 Nepali rupees. Yes, okay. So the costs really add up with simple activities like just taking a bath or doing chores like laundry. And this, I found recently that it was formed through a CSR program of Manila, the capital city's privatized water system. So that's another issue there. So not all houses have toilets. So they're fortunate if they have chamber pots, and if not, they would just use a plastic bag to do their business and tie it up and throw it just outside the house because there's mountains of trash everywhere. The first time I've heard about this community was in a documentary I watched when I was in high school, I think. It was featured that they were undergoing a demolition process from the government as well. And they used these plastic bags called flying saucers, also known as that, to throw it to the police enforcement who's trying to drive them out of their homes. So they weaponized this lack of sewage system to also, as a defense to protect their houses. So yeah, I think Even with the large amount of support groups and organizations in the community, setting up a wash facility should be anchored in a secure housing program. Because just putting wash facilities is just a band-aid program, band-aid solution if the housing program of the government is not anchored in a sustainable urban planning setup where they are provided with enough basic services such as water, electricity, but also food, access to education and livelihood. They will always bring back people back to scratch. So people have to start over and over again because of their lighthouse materials. Just with heavy rains, the community will flood, and even if you just cook and there's a spark going around, it can wipe up the whole community. So this has also happened recently. So houses are fragile, physical lives also become temporary in this area because they're vulnerable to disasters and also to everyday living conditions, with just mountains of trash to start with again and again. So without government or a permanent government solution co-designed with the community, I don't think that they would be able to be given a humane way of living. Thank you.
D'accord. Alors, pour moi, déjà, quand on parle de WASH, c'est au-delà d'une vision de l'assainissement, au-delà d'une vision de l'eau. C'est vrai que ça reste un véritable défi aujourd'hui, en tout cas dans notre contexte. Mais il y a un dernier point qui m'a intéressé, qui intéresse surtout mon travail tout à l'heure, quand ça a été exposé, vous l'avez certainement vu, c'est au niveau de la discrimination. Nous sommes dans un contexte, comme je le disais, où déjà la question des menstrues est considérée comme une question d'hygiène. Et donc, tout ce qu'on fait quand c'est considéré comme hygiène, c'est de construire des toilettes, c'est de faire en sorte qu'il y ait de l'eau, c'est de faire en sorte de sensibiliser. Mais dans le narratif, c'est un narratif qui est humiliant envers les personnes menstruées. C'est un narratif qui est très stigmatisant. Et donc, le S sur lequel nous travaillons énormément, c'est justement ça. C'est comment on fait pour que déjà le narratif change. Et changer le narratif, ça commence déjà par nous, mais ça va aussi au niveau des institutions. Si on a envie aujourd'hui au Bénin d'avoir la question de la dignité menstruelle comme une question de droit humain, comme une question qui est consacrée, comme une question qui est vraiment dans les textes, c'est que dans notre travail sur les infrastructures WASH, on intègre vraiment un A sur ça. Et c'est justement ce que nous faisons. La semaine dernière, avant d'être ici, on organisait un concert et une série d'activités sur la dignité menstruelle. J'avoue que quand on a démarré les formalités administratives et on a déposé le premier courrier, les autorités nous ont dit les menstrues, vous voulez faire un rassemblement sur les menstrues, vous êtes sérieuse? Ça a été souvent cette réaction-là, ça a été beaucoup de rires, beaucoup de moqueries dans les bureaux où nous sommes passés difficilement. On a pu obtenir l'autorisation pour pouvoir faire finalement l'activité. Et quand on l'a eu, les autorités qui sont venues étaient vraiment curieux d'apprendre sur ce qu'on appelle dignité menstruelle, pourquoi on veut dépasser la question de l'hygiène, pourquoi on parle de stigmatisation. On a même reçu des questions qui s'interrogeaient sur la question de l'isolation menstruelle. Des gens nous demandaient, est-ce que vous considérez vraiment que c'est une violence? Pour eux, en fait, c'est normal. Pour eux, il y a tellement de choses qui sont normalisées que la stigmatisation est présente. Et dans ce contexte-là, changer le narratif, c'est pour moi et pour nous au Bénin, c'est de créer plus d'espace. Des espaces où on amène vraiment le sujet sur la place publique, que ce soit à travers l'art, que ce soit à travers la musique, que ce soit à travers la voix même des personnes menstruées sur leur vécu. Donc, il nous arrive, hier par exemple, on a lancé le documentaire sur le vécu des personnes menstruées et on utilise de plus en plus ces thèmes-là, personnes menstruées, pour que ça puisse faire un tic dans la tête. On utilise de plus en plus le mot menstrué parce que chez nous, quand tu parles de de règles, c'est comme un sujet de moquerie, c'est un mot en fait qui attise la moquerie. Et donc, pour pouvoir changer le narratif aussi, c'est un travail à ce niveau-là pour changer cette façon-là de percevoir les personnes menstruées et les menstrués qui, jusqu'à aujourd'hui, sont conçus comme sales, comme honteux, comme impus. Et donc, changer le narratif, c'est aussi pour nous mobiliser les influenceurs, mobiliser les acteurs, mobiliser les artistes. C'est un peu comme la chanson qu'on a écoutée, qu'on écoute ici souvent sur les menstrués. Nous, on l'a fait aussi au Bénin, mais dans un contexte où on a fait une chanson sur la dignité menstruelle, où on n'a pas parlé de règles, mais on a parlé de menstrues. Dans cette chanson-là, on n'a pas pris par quatre chemins, on n'a pas dit par exemple fleurs pour parler de menstrues, mais on a dit le mot menstrues. Ça a fait un choc quand le clip est sorti, mais aujourd'hui, je suis très contente de voir une vague en ligne de personnes, d'activistes et même de personnes menstruées qui parlent de leurs menstrues sans tabou, qui en parlent sans honte, et c'est justement ça le cadre qu'on a envie en fait de créer de plus en plus. Donc effectivement, au-delà de tout ça, lorsque ce cadre-là est assuré, le défi c'est effectivement maintenant de faire en sorte que dans les tests, on puisse institutionnaliser pour que l'accès à l'eau ne soit plus un défi lorsqu'on rend maintenant les produits, pour que la défiscalisation aussi ne soit plus un défi. Et pour ça, le dernier travail et le dernier chantier sur lequel on travaille énormément, c'est le plaidoyer. Un plaidoyer institutionnel pour non seulement institutionnaliser la chose, mais pour aller au-delà, pour que tous les aspects en fait de la question soient vraiment pris en compte et non un aspect qui renvoie en fait à une discrimination qui reste et qui demeure dans nos communautés. Merci.
Thank you very much. These were very rich conversations, and I really appreciated Benedicta bringing it back to the dignified menstruation as did you in your interventions. We have about 4 minutes left, so we will do a lightning last round in which I would like you to talk about your commitment for the way you and your organization plan to incorporate the dignified menstruation framework. Do it short, do it punchy, and just say the big highlight. The order for this would be Jeydah, Benedicta, Rohini, and Sajani.
Hello. So I'll go first. On a personal level, of course, I will not stop yapping about menstrual information that I hear about everywhere. Of course, to my friends, to family, and people around me, including the non-menstruators. And I will also continuously ask people about their menstrual health status if they're willing to share. As an independent researcher, I will always bridge research projects. I will try to work both with research institutions, NGOs, and government institutions, and continue to critique policies and build on these. I will always listen to community stories and life histories as an anchor to document not just injustices, but also victories of resistance, and then translate these to partnerships and concrete actions that would always create meaningful grassroots intervention to make also knowledge publicly accessible to everyone and also to the powers that be.
Alors, moi, en venant ici, j'ai compris une chose assez importante, c'est que le combat pour la dignité menstruelle, c'est une question qui est transversale et qui dépasse les barrières de langue, qui dépasse les frontières, que l'on soit au Népal, que l'on soit en Inde, que l'on soit au Bénin ou en Guinée. On a en commun le combat pour la dignité menstruelle. Et c'est déjà un pas important de voir que les choses bougent, les lignes sont en train de changer. Et pour moi, justement, mon engagement va aller dans ce sens-là. Ça va être aide pour moi que désormais, chaque 8 décembre, peu importe où je me trouve sur le territoire, sur le continent, qu'on commémore vraiment cette journée-là comme une journée internationale pour des menstruations dignes, que ce soit à travers les activités, à travers des espaces, donc créer de plus en plus d'espaces pour détabouriser, pour enlever ce tabou-là, cette honte-là sur la question des menstrues, que ce soit à travers l'art, à travers la musique, à travers le plaidoyer. Mais déjà, c'est un engagement que chaque 8 décembre, désormais, ce ne sera plus seulement au Népal, ce ne sera plus seulement en Asie, mais ce sera vraiment partout. Et cet engagement-là aussi, c'est de pousser encore plus loin le travail sur le plaidoyer pour que désormais ce soit institutionnalisé. Pourquoi pas constitutionnaliser la question de la dignité menstruelle au Bénin et pourquoi pas en Afrique. Merci.
I've been harping on a lot about norm shift and agency building. And our organization, C3, Center for Catalyzing Change, a big strategy, a key kind of USP of our work is that we believe in and work towards ecosystem change. And we work with and alongside systems and institutions. And that is exactly what I want to keep doing to build a world where menstruation is normalized, where dignified menstruation is the standard, and where information resources are easily available, accessible across demographics, across gender divides, across caste, class divides, across geographical divides. And in terms of how we can bring the normalization. We are already working with young people and especially first-time menstruators to, from that habit building stage itself, because that 11 to 13 is also a age where the habits and the behaviors you begin adopting lasts a lifetime. So not only are we working on the behavior change, positive behavior change, positive norm building around menstruation from a young age, I think it is also equally important to work with adults and especially mothers, because very often mothers are the role models for young menstruators, and they teach young menstruators how to wear menstrual product, how to use a menstrual product, what menstrual product to use, and so on. So breaking stigma, breaking taboos, building awareness also at the level of the role models, the influencers around menstruators is equally important. So that is my other commitment.
So time is up, so let me just wrap up my response. So Moderator Nepal has been demonstrating a very strong public commitment to incorporating dignified menstruation in our programs. Moderator Nepal's country strategy for 2023 till 2028 further solidifies our efforts in prioritizing gender-responsive WASH and adopting a comprehensive and holistic approach to MHH across all sectors. So in our way forward, Moderator Nepal is committed to strengthen government systems and build institutional capacities to ensure menstrual services uphold the dignity, choice, and equity. We are also committed to work with diverse and like-minded organizations to expand informed choice on all products, to ensure dignity, and also environmental sustainability, and ensure meaningful participation in all levels. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our time is over. So I will do a very, very brief sum up. And I would encourage the participants to approach the panelists individually and discuss any question they may have. So in today's discussion, we examined current practices, innovations, challenges in menstrual product management, as well as we talked a lot about systems and access across very diverse contexts. And we discussed, most importantly, menstrual management beyond hygiene. We discussed the linkage to dignified menstruation-friendly products, sustainability, inclusion. And most importantly, and I'm sure that the organizers of the event are capturing those results, we have heard commitments, and I hope that these commitments will make it into the proceedings of the event and will be part of the way forward of the next steps. With this, and in light of the late hour and being dark outside, I would like to thank the panelists and to thank all of you who stayed here that late for the active participation and the productive discussion that we had here. Namaste and Dhanyabad.